Take another photograph and document a life that's right. And ways consist of simple things, the days of black and white. And faces from a humble past.
Yo, what's happening? Welcome back to Talkin Guff podcast with me, Ruben Django Pouch. How y'all getting on? Just wanted to touch on two things that I heard only today. Number one was that Donald Trump's estate, Mar-a-Lago, I think, was raided by the FBI. They're looking for documents that apparently he took from somewhere and brought to his home there in Mar-a-Lago. And we'll talk about it maybe again in another episode, but some people are saying that it's like an abuse of power by the Democrats to further tarnish the name of Donald Trump. And then there's other people who are just like, well, right on, that's what should be happening. He is treasonous despot who must be held accountable for his crimes. I don't know. So interesting stuff. Like, I just mentioned it because I don't know which one of those narratives is correct, but I do know that I think Donald Trump will run, and because he's sort of, his language and the way he's been talking recently have made me think that he will run. Ben Shapiro and Bill Maher were talking about it, and they were saying that I just want to check something here actually quickly. Is it like totally that way? It is. Hold on. That was that way. Is it? I don't know. It's grand. So fucking hell, what was I saying? I don't have, like, you know, I don't know which side of that fence I fall on because I don't stand anywhere. I don't stand in America. It's not part of my problem. But like I said, this is what I was saying, in fact. So Bill Maher and Ben Shapiro were talking about it, and they said that the Conservatives won't put anyone else in because they'll get destroyed in the primaries by Trump, and that Trump is just going to... Something to this effect. I'll try and find the clip and I'll put it...
Let me ask you what you think is going to happen in 2024. You think Trump's going to run, right?
I'd be shocked if he doesn't.
I would be shocked too. Is he going to get the nomination, or is maybe your boy here, DeSantis, going to fight him?
I mean, the big problem for the Republicans is going to be whether anybody runs against him, because he's a giant wrecking ball. And if you run against Trump, you run the risk that he wrecks you so hard in the primary that you have no chance in the general. That is the big question.
So what do you think will happen?
I think that if he runs, it's going to clear the field.
Right. So I could see that Trump could actually win that election easily, especially if the Democrats keep doing the stuff they are doing to piss people off, like in schools. When you have my kid coming home from school and saying, "Mommy, am I a racist?" You're 5.
Yep.
You just learned the word. That's what I worry about with the Democrats.
Here, but that they'd be like, he's gonna run and he's gonna clean fucking house, and I don't know if that'll be good or bad, but I'm pretty sure that, like, there will be fucking holy war on the streets of America. I tell you, if that shit goes down. But it'd be interesting to see, huh? Like, it'd be great if they just fucked off and ate each other, but like, they could just end the world as well. So it's a bit of a tricky one, huh? The other thing is that, did you see, now we don't know if it's true or not, but Prince William there's rumours of an extramarital affair going down with Prince William, and he may, and to the, like, even to the, as far as to say that he might like getting pegged in his ass with a strap-on dildo, I suppose, from time to time, which would be fucking mental, but not really surprising from them fucking Illuminati lizard people. Of course they're doing that. Of course he's doing that shit. He's eating babies while he's doing it. It was a thing, like, and remember I said before about, I saw an article or a headline that was like, Ryan Tuberty leaves RTE to go off grid, and I was like, oh my god, and then it turned out he was just like going on holidays or some bollocks. Like, I saw this other article in the irishmirror.ie, and it was like, like, they're such loaded. RTE's Ryan Tuberty confirms break from station and jokes about a new job. And it just goes on to say he's confirmed he'll be taking a break from the airwaves and our screens for a few weeks, and took a cheeky jab at the Conservative Party while doing so. Oh, like, even just this. How self-involved is this? Like, it doesn't seem like we'll be hearing from him for a while, though, as he took to social media on Tuesday to confirm he's going quiet for a bit. He's going on his holidays for a few weeks. No one gives a flying fucking dog's Mickey, man. What are you talking about? And then here, not really, but I'm off grid for a few weeks, so have a great few weeks, and I'll see you on the other side. And then this was his swipe. He posted a snap from London which showed him outside 10 Downing Street as of this morning. I'm retired from my current job so I can enter the race for number 10. And then that's when he said, not really, but I'm off grid for a few weeks, so have a great few weeks, and I'll see you on the other side. Oh, I don't know why that makes me so angry, but I just am like, how was that in the paper, and why did they... What? And then it says people wish to Dubliner luck in the comments, with one person writing, enjoy some... oh my God, it's too much. Ryan added 3 emojis to his post, perhaps hinting at his plans: an ice cream, a sun, and the Irish flag. And then people wish to Dubliner luck in the comments, with one person writing, enjoy some fishing, maybe hanging out in the west, well-deserved break. A second wrote, enjoy your break. Thank you for helping us get through COVID, particularly at the beginning when we felt afraid and so isolated, with your chirpy chat. Oh my God. I don't know. What else? There was the air show was on in Bray there a few weeks ago at this stage maybe, and the fucking dirt, like, first of all, thousands of people. I can see, I'm looking at the screen, it's totally off kilter, but who gives a fuck? But thousands of people obviously descend upon Bray Beach to watch the air show, which is great for the local businesses and Bray in general, and it's fair play to them. I'm not taking a swipe whatsoever. Man, it seems organised and all, but apparently there was some fuck up with one of the trains, and it knocked on effect, and basically what we saw first was like, it looked like fucking India or something. People just walking up the train tracks, and there was just a train there. It was mad looking. It didn't look like Ireland. But what had happened was that the train, it was like fucking hottest day of the summer or something. Oh no, maybe that's not the case, but maybe I just threw that in for fucking sensationalism. But it was hot. It was definitely hot. And the dart stopped, and people said an hour. They were waiting there an hour. It was fucking roasting. There was no air conditioning. The windows are only those stupid little fucking windows. Maybe no windows at all, because some of them are a bit funny. And then some people started panicking, passing out and all, and trying to like strip down their kids and fan them with their clothes and all. It's like fucking mayhem. And some fiend just cracked the door open and everyone got out and just walked to Bray Station along the tracks. Fucking right on, brothers and sisters. And Aaron Rodarin definitely tried to sort of go, oh, this was a bad thing these people did. They were waiting 5 minutes. And then there's loads of accounts, people going, 5 minutes, me foot. I was there for fucking an hour, and people were freaking out, and I wouldn't have lasted an hour. I would have literally been like, I'm freaking out. Like, I'd have freaked out. So that was a disaster, I suppose, for Aaron Rodarin, but sure, such is life. It was interesting to look at, and no one got hurt, so it's all gravy. I got put onto this documentary podcast called The Witness, in his own words, and there's a book by Nicola Tallant and this person, Joey the Lips O'Callaghan, as well, called The Witness. And I just was like, and it came up just whatever. It was just like, they were just like, listen to this for a childhood bedtime story. And I read the blurb and I was like, oh, I don't know if I can listen to that right now. And then I started listening to it the next day maybe, and straight away I was fucking hooked. The Witness, in his own words. And it's a 10-parter, and it's about a guy called Joey the Lips O'Callaghan, who at the age of 10 years of age was induced and sort of induced into this gang or to this job, and groomed by this fucking, it would seem a total lunatic by the name of Brian the Milkman Kenny. It's really heavy. It's really, really heavy and really grim and morbidly fascinating. And like, spoiler alert, we'll just talk about it for a bit. Like, this guy, this young lad, and he tells the story so well. He's from Ballymun. His mother has been through more than one abusive relationship, and he's grown up during a heroin epidemic in the Ballymun flats, like hardcore trauma shit, basically. Then her, but he's saying, like, it's interesting. It's really interesting, the stuff about the flats in Ballymun back in like the 80s, late 80s, 90s, early 90s, and when there was, definitely in the early 90s, there was a heroin epidemic all over the place, including just around the corner here. But the way he describes it, he describes the whole thing so well. Like, that's one part of it that is so immersive, so riveting, there's music to it, and it works really well. It's fucking really good, man. But it's so intense, and basically, but the way he's talking about Ballymun as well, with also, like, he loved it there. It was safe for the people who lived there. They didn't feel afraid. They just worked around the junkies, and there was robins and all that sort of stuff. But it's different, like, different world, man. For like the likes of me, like, it's fucking jungle stuff. And basically, when they had to move they were gonna move. His mother found a new partner who was a good guy. He said, a tall gentleman, couldn't fault him. But then they said, we're gonna get a house in the Blanche, and he was like, fuck that, my life's here, I love Ballymun, my dad's here, and blah blah blah. But they went to the Blanche, and that's when he said it all got fucked up. And basically, he gets a job with this guy, but the way he describes him, even the way he describes him when they first meet, and he's there, I don't know how it happened, but within 20 seconds, this guy had already come through the whole house and was in the kitchen at the back of the house, and it was just him and this 10-year-old kid. He just like knocked on the door and said, you're new in the town, I'm the milkman or whatever. And he's having a hard time at school, and he's having a hard time in life, and he said to your man, can I work for you? And he convinces his parents, and he starts working for this lad, collecting the money. He says, that's great. He's like 10 years of age. He said collecting the money was a great buzz. He did it 2 nights a week, and the milk would have been delivered throughout the week. And then him and a girl and your man Brian Kenny and another lad would go off and collect the bill. You remember in the olden days when we used to get the milk from the milkman in the bottles with the silver caps and all, remember? So that was the vibe, and he said that was great. He was loving life. He was making a few quid. The tips were great, he said. But the whole time, he's already alluded to the fact that it goes to shit. So you're waiting to go. When does it go to shit? And he does the sort of, I won't explain every bit of it, but basically, he does the evening shift, collecting the money on the Friday and Saturday, I think. And then during the week, your man Brian delivers the milk with a young lad called Jesse. And then all of a sudden, Jesse no longer works for Brian. He stole from Brian, and would Joey like his job full time during the summer. They convinced the mother and your man's real cool with the mum and dad. Like, he's real like, Mrs. blah blah blah. And they convinced the parents that yes, in fact, he can have the summer job, and which he does. And he says when he took the summer job delivering the milk, that's when things changed. When he really knew he was fucked for the first time was when, and the way he tells it, basically they see your man Jesse, they pass the other young lad who used to deliver the milk with Brian, and Brian pulls the van over, pulls the young lad out of the other milkman's van, baits the absolute fuck out of him with a hammer or something like this. And the way he describes it's really heavy and it's really grim, and like I said, it's sort of morbidly fascinating. And so, but that's when it was just like, because when he's done that, he's like, you ever fucking wrong me, that's what I'll do to you, I'll fucking kill you. And he said it just went downhill from there, and it sounds fucking awful. Physical, sexual abuse. He makes him sell heroin and cocaine and run his whole empire, because that's what they're doing on the milk round. They're delivering fucking heroin and cocaine and shit like that in the middle of the fucking drugs epidemic. It's fucking mental. And his thought process, he's only a kid, he's 11 years of age or something like that. And so blah blah blah, it goes on for years, and eventually he ends up ratting on them, I suppose, him and another lad called Thomas Hinchin, who commit a murder on a guy called, I can't remember his name now, but I think it's like Joey O'Brien or something. He tells then the story of being in police custody and being the chief witness in a trial. He showed them where the weapon was, the whole kit and caboodle. And then he goes into Garda protective, what do they call it? The witness protection program, the Garda witness protection program, which apparently is a total joke. And yeah, and that's it pretty much. And more about that when he has to come back. But fuck me, man, the whole thing is mad interesting. And those lads went to jail for life, and I think they're still in jail now, but maybe they're trying to get out. I don't know, but it's fucking insane. And the other thing about it is that gangland stuff is morbidly fascinating, isn't it? It's interesting. Like, we sort of feed on it, because it's like, what? That's just up the road there, you know what I mean? It's only in inner city Dublin and West Dublin and all over the place, I suppose, and in every country. But it's just, there's something fascinating about that. Like, we love gangster movies, obviously, but when you see that, you're just like, what is that? That's mental. And it's not that I love or glorify these lads, but there's something, like, they're mad bastards. They're totally wired differently, aren't they? And I wonder how that happens. I'm fascinated in a way. And all the other, like, there's names, everyone in this series that they were hanging out with, and they went all the way to the top for a period of time. And so it's fucking mental. But as I was sort of scrolling, like, because the names would be coming up, right? And I was like going, oh, what's that? Who's that lad? And I'd read the thing, and oh, yeah, fucking hell, whoa. And you see it, you're putting just the whole thing together in your head chronologically, and the whole sort of net, you know, whatever it is. And it is interesting stuff. But then somehow, because I think I was Googling the guy, Toddy O'Loughlin, who's actually the guard who was really good to him, first met him, and blah, blah, blah. Check it out yourselves, it's fucking amazing. And somehow, through my whatever, I was just looking at other following names here, there. Toddy O'Loughlin, I definitely Googled. Maybe he had something to do with this other thing. But there was this thing came up, and I saw his face, and I was like, oh, right. And it's this Roy Webster. And do you remember this down in Wicklow Town, where a guy had an extramarital affair on a night out, Christmas night out down in Wicklow Town? And the woman, I don't know what the story was, and I'm not speaking ill of the lady, the victim. There was some level of acrimony over money, or she said she was pregnant, and he basically, like, went to meet her to sort it out or something. She was like, no, I'm going to tell your wife and all. And he killed her with a fucking hammer, and left her in the van for a night, and then brought her into his workshop. And like, the story, because here is the thing, right? I know this guy, Roy Webster. Not really, like, I'm not friends with him. But years ago, when I was working for my mate, who was a bricklayer, I was a labourer for him, we built a showroom, like that. We just did the block work for this showroom he was building to showcase the kitchen cabinets he was making, because that's what he was, kitchen cabinet maker. And like, he was really straight and like sound and all. He made us lunch every day, and there was something obviously weird about him for definite, but he seemed more like emasculated, or I don't know what his trip was, but there was just something definitely odd about him. But I never would have thought there was a sort of bad, like a harmful, I wouldn't have thought he would be capable of bashing some Björn to death with a hammer, basically, at all. But that's obviously the mad thing about it. You know, I'm not saying, so he's alright, he's a good guy, no, nothing like that. I'm just going, like, when that story first came up, me and my mate Bailey were just like, that's your man. We were in the shed where he had her. He showed us all the machines and all that sort of stuff. Fucking mental, isn't it? Like, it's just like, that woman's dead, and you are fucked, mate. Your life is fucked. You're never going to see your kids again. You're never going to see your wife again. And they tell, like, the way they describe it in the paper is almost like a fucking soap opera. You're just like, oh my God, what were you thinking, you spa? At the very start, you should have just gone, look, I was with someone at a Christmas party. I was drunk out of my mind. I was going through X, Y, or Z, whatever. I have to be totally transparent with you about this. Because Otherwise, you might just keep the lie going and kill the bitch and end up in jail. I don't mean kill the bitch, I mean kill the woman and end up in jail like a motherfucker. And she's dead. Her life is over and your life is over. What a waste of people's lives. You know what I mean? Mental. So I went, I have a mate called Finan Bjorn. He lives over in Australia, and we would have been the best friends before he went to Australia, and potentially even I was going to go to Australia as well in around the 2008 period. And look, I'm a bit of a homebird actually anyway now. I've realised about myself, and I'm glad that I didn't go to Australia. I don't think I would have fit in. And but he lives over in Australia. He's having a grand old time. He's got a great job, and he's got a house and a wife and 2 kids. But he came over. I haven't seen him in years, literally years. And he came over there a week or so ago, and I've hung out with him a few times. It's been great. I'm going to hang out with him again before he goes. But the first night that he got here, or that he was hanging out, he was like, "You coming down to the pub?" And it was it was a couple of Sundays ago. I was like, "Yeah, cool, I'll come down." After work, and I went down and met him, and he was there with a old girlfriend of mine, and called Teresa, and who else? Ross Rowley, my good friend Ross Rowley, and myself. That was it. I'm pretty sure, wasn't it? Yeah. And we're chatting away about this and that, and it was great. It was great to see them there. But I had said, oh yeah, I was listening to this documentary podcast, and I just gave them a brief. I was just like, yeah, this guy gets basically induced and groomed into a criminal gang, and he gets fucking sexually abused and witnesses mad shit and murder and all, and then he dobs him in for the murder because he can't take it anymore when he's only like 18 or something mental. And, you know, it was really grim, really heavy, and this guy, Brian Kenny, sounds like a fucking tall nutcase and it would just be awful. And she was like, yeah, cool. How'd you know he wasn't lying? About the guy, Joey the Lips O'Callaghan. And I was like, and look, I just said straight away, I was like, that's a good question, because like I definitely would be on the cynical side at times and thinking, is this a situation where that person has actually done the thing of their own accord, and then the only way out of there is literally, it's like, you know, self-preservation now? I don't get that impression when I listen to the whole of Joey Lips O'Callaghan's story. It's definitely O'Callaghan. I'm pretty sure story. I was just like, fucking hell, man. You should listen to it for definite. But still in all, like, it's an interesting question. I did think it a couple of times at the very start. And like, I've definitely thought it when I was watching that fake vegan thing. I thought it about that before as well. But so I was like, oh, that's an interesting question. But I'm pretty sure if you check it out, it'll be answered for you. And she's like, oh, okay, cool, blah, blah, blah. And then we were talking about other things and this and that and whatnot. And we were talking about a local establishment on the beach. And a friend of mine was like, yeah, I heard that's real, like, seedy. It's a bit seedy for the girls who work there and stuff. And I was like, fucking A1, bro. You hear mad stories out of that. It's a hotbed of sexual predatory behaviour. Oh yeah, because my good friend Asa was there as well. And I was like, it's a hotbed of sexual predatory behaviour, and I wouldn't allow my 18-year-old daughter to work there. And Teresa was like, that's life for women always, or something like that. And I was like, well, come on, you know, give us a fucking break. And we got into it a bit about well, because she was saying that she was afraid of men, and I was like, well, look, that's fair. Like, you know, I can't. And I explained to her, the only thing I've said, I've thought about this before, you know, because I'm not really comfortable with the narrative that all men are rapists and murderers, but I could be comfortable with the narrative that all murderers and rapists are men. But I was saying, she said she was afraid of men, and I said, like, I would liken it to when I was maybe 16, 17, and we'd be smoking joints down the woods, and I'd be sort of stumbling home, stoned as a bone, at about 1 o'clock, 2 o'clock maybe, and I'd come around the corner here where I live. It's like a blind corner, and there might be 3 headbangers from the local council estate walking my way, and I'd be like, fuck, you know that feeling? And it's numerous occasions throughout my youth, or, you know, late teens, adolescence, I'd be like, shit. And maybe that's how women feel consistently, and that would be awful. And but I did make the point that it's a finite group of men who do these things, and you know, I would be afraid of men too. Like even now, if the fucking Brian Kenny came walking through the doors, you know, I'd be like, wow, fucking hell, like, I'd be shitting it. And I've actually been beaten up more times by men than you have probably, and yeah, like, I understand that. situation. I'm not going around like a hard nut. But then, and she had a few drinks on, and she was like, yeah, but we need to, in society, make changes. And I was like, well, obviously, across all facets of the, socio-economic tapestry, but I don't that sounds like you're saying we need to start having conversations about, and like those conversations have been happening for years. I say it all the time, that's why most men don't beat and rape and murder women, like 99.999% of them probably. And she was like, well, I'm talking about the patriarchy. And I was like, okay, yeah, what's the patriarchy? She's like, it's the patriarchy. And I said, yeah, no, I just want to, I want to know, like, what to say, like, what is the patriarchy and how has it affected you negatively? And the implication of what she was saying to me was that, like, even I, by default, am complicit in the patriarchy because I am, based on my gender, which actually seems really sexist to me. And, like, I was explaining those things. I was like, men also get killed and raped by other men, like, at a huge percent, that most men wouldn't want to do anything like that to you. And even like, I am a victim of, because there is a patriarchy, but it's a very finite group of male-dominated political and financial elites who control the world and are could potentially dead set on acquiring even more control and wealth. That's the end game potentially entirely. But I am potentially then a victim of that patriarchy as well. And she was just like, no way. And I was sort of asking her, well, like, what is the negative effect? What are the negative effects of the patriarchy upon you exclusively? Like, you live in a nice place, I assume. You live in the middle of London, you have for years, and like, you got a real sound fiance and all. I'm just like, well, what? And I'm not saying it doesn't exist, but I think as long as because I said this to her and she agreed. I think potentially I was like, men and women are in danger now of alienating themselves from each other because men can't be men, and on another level, women can't be women. And a woman I know was saying, I just am so sick of listening to sort of women shaming each other based on how it is they want to. What they want to do with themselves, you know what I mean? I'm finding it hard to articulate that, but anyway, it doesn't really matter. But the funny thing that I thought about a couple of days later was that, or maybe even the next day, I'm that quick. I was like, I told Teresa initially about this, like, young boy, 10, like a really vulnerable human being who was induced and groomed into a fucking hardcore criminal patriarchy where he was abused and was a serious victim of that patriarchy. And the first thing that came to her head was like, well, is he lying? And I just thought that was interestingly ironic. Do you understand where I'm coming from with that? I just thought, it's like, I gave you an example because it's not a woman. It's like, oh, he's lying. You can't understand the double standard potentially there. I don't know. A lad I work with, I'm pretty sure he said he had to, like, camp out from early in the morning to go and look at these houses that they were selling off plan somewhere. And then everyone had to go for an interview, and the people who were selling the houses were just like, and tell us, how much do you earn? Well, and what would you spend on your vape a week? And where does your daughter go to creche, and how much is that a week? And are you sure you're able to? Not a bank, like a bank. The bank approves the mortgage. You know what I mean? But and he just felt it was really invasive. And I was thinking then, is it almost like, because he said people were leaving sort of crying and all, and they were like, well, don't call us, we'll call you type of thing. And I was thinking to myself, is there an element of, like, because I was saying there's loads of houses there out by the Farrankelly Road and Delgany and, like, Glenheron and Waverley and all up the back of the Little there in Greystowns, you know what I'm saying? And there's 100,000 euros worth of fucking automobiles at least outside on every driveway. And I was just like going, maybe poor people aren't allowed to live there, and that's why there's still loads of people living in temporary accommodation or even homeless. Yeah, and so my point is, like, are those housing developments like Waverley and Glen Heron and Ashton Wood or whatever it's called out there, are they all reserved exclusively for people with money? It's crazy. So my young lad went to acting summer camp in Bow Street. Just like, boom, get in there, mate. 3 hours a day, 10 to 1 or something, doing stuff. He loved it, actually. It was really good for him. But I dropped him in on the Monday and the Tuesday into town, and I was just like, well, I'm just going to stay here because I'm not going to drive back to Bray and sit down for an hour or like doing shit on my phone or something stupid and then drive back to town and spend the money and all. So I said, look, I'm just going to mooch around, get a sandwich, sit in the car, watch shit on me, like watch a podcast or something, chill the fuck out. I was tired anyway on the Monday. Had a little sleep. Bow Street is basically just, it's Lincoln Lane off the Quays, which becomes Bow Street, and it's parallel to Smithfield. And that area is an interesting contrast of wealth and not wealth, I suppose, like, because it's at the back of the forecourts-ish, is it? But there's a lot of barristers' offices around there. The Jameson Distillery is there. Like, even Smithfield Square, like, it's sort of weird because it's all, like, new and flash and art and sort of pavilion-esque. And then there's just, like, lads totally out of it, asleep on the grass and all. And it's just an interesting contrast, I suppose. And so then I think it goes Smithfield Square, Bow Lane, or Bow Street, and then whatever this route is, I don't know. But there, on this route, there's a Capuchin Monks church, I believe. It's the Capuchin Monks. And then so the back of the church is actually on this Bow Street. And when I was sitting there in the car, there was fucking loads of people there at the back entrance of this church. And I didn't know at the time that it was church. But it's obviously, like, I don't know if soup kitchen's the right word, but maybe it is. I don't know. It's a place where people can go and get shit. Food. I think it's food predominantly. But I do think there's another thing going on there because I think there was people queuing at two different doors. I don't know. But it seemed to me on the first day, I was like, wow, that's mad, because there was a good few people waiting there for a long time with kids and all. And I was parked a bit back. Like, even I'm parked outside this fabulous, linen shop there on Bow Street. The women inside. And then, like, just literally I could throw a stone and hit, like, abject poverty, I suppose. And people who can't afford to eat. Like I said, there was a lot of people there queuing for a long time, and there was kids and everything with them. I didn't notice as much on the first day. There was definitely a good few people, and then by the time it was 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock, there was loads of people queuing up. Good few people. But I was parked sort of far away, and I didn't have a good look at the demographic, really. Then the next day, I was parked further up, closer to the Capuchin Monks, the back of the Capuchin Monks thing. And from early, man, there was a lot of people. And then by the time that sort of 12, half 12 mark hit, there was fucking hundreds of people. And there was a very mixed demographic. Now, sure, on both days, I definitely could have identified sort of pure inner city Dublin heads, some of which looked like they had problematic drug issues and problematic drink issues and had kids with them and all. And there was definitely, like, Roma gypsies with loads of kids. But I definitely noticed, like I said, I was too far away really to see the people between X, Y, and Z. But I definitely, on the second day, there was the two demographics aforementioned. But then there was, like, young Latina girls, like 19, 20, 21, 22, who looked like they worked and stuff like that. There was lads who potentially looked like they were in their late 40s, recovering, in recovery of some description, because they look like, that look, it's like rough but fresh, I suppose is the way I would describe it. And there was other, like, Latina males, there was Indian dudes, there was fucking all different types of people. And just, it reminded me of when I went to New York in 2010 and I stayed, and I spoke about this before, in this fucking hostel where people, like, fucking normal hard-working people, were just having to get up at 6 in the morning and shit, and they wouldn't be home till midnight, and they're out doing, like, laborious menial jobs, and they're just living in a room with 40 other people, and they're Americans and all, and you're just like, what the fuck is going on here? That definitely struck me at the time, and now I was just looking at this going, Jesus, that looks like that. Like, because people look, and I'm not saying anything about people who don't work for whatever reason, I'm just saying that, you know, when you see people who look like they're maybe even coming from their job or whatever, and they're having to use a soup kitchen, it's fucking mental, and it's a stark bit of imagery, to be honest with you, and where we're at. Because as that's happening, I was reading, like, one on the second day, as I'm looking at this queue getting bigger and bigger, I was reading multiple articles on my phone, but I was reading an article that said something to the effect of, if you were, like, they gave this classic, like, civil servant couple, a guard and a nurse. He's been a guard for 6 years, she's a nurse for whatever. With the salary they're on, they would need something like a €200,000 deposit in order to buy a house in Dublin County, because the average was like 500 G's for a 3-bedroom house in Dublin. And I had friends like going, well, what the fuck are they thinking of getting a 3-bedroom house? It's just like, well, like, they want to have a family and all. It's not really like, it's hardly living in the lap of luxury. Oh, check it out, we've got a 3-bedroom house, like standard middle, like working to middle class house. Like, well, it's not, that shouldn't be outside the parameters of our dreams. Like, we should be able to fucking dream and accomplish bigger than that from the streets. But what was I thinking? Yeah, and then they gave other instances of, like, even the most high paid sector, the tech sector, would have to be, to get, like, it would have to be a couple both on 80 grand a year to get, like, a fucking, I don't know, it just seems insane. Like, you're just like, what? Like, there's people on that money, 80, 100, 120 grand a year, and there's people, like, you couldn't live on minimum wage in this country, and it's turning the country into a welfare state as well, you know. And I'm not giving out about people on welfare or anything like that, just like, but that's where all our money is going, to sort of stem the flow of shit from situations created by the likes of Fine Gael and Fianna Fáil. Like, that's what's happening right now today, because if you work full time, you can't get it. You couldn't buy rent a house. You couldn't even rent a house if you worked full time. Sorry, say if you're on like fucking 35 G's a year, you're fucked. You're fucked, man. You're not renting or buying a house anywhere. Like, if you have a family and a kid and all, you're doomed. Doomed. So I went on a tangent there. Well, yeah, and it's just then because, and like I said, there's like this fabulous linen shop, and there's like expensive cars and barristers and like money around the fucking place, big money, and then like just like a abject poverty. That's the only way to describe it. And I saw it in other parts up on fucking, what's it called, Bolton Street or somewhere like that. It looked like the fucking Joker or something, man. Like New York in the 70s. I know that sounds melodramatic, but it was really, I was just looking around going, this looks mental. It looks like a movie. It looks like the Joker. So, I mean, that's probably where I'm going to leave it for today. Was it a bit negative today? I don't know, but I think then that's one of the most serious situations we have in this country and potentially in the world. It's just like the sacrificing of the working classes and their standard of living for the gains of billionaires and all. It's fucking awful, isn't it? And I mean, I'm blessed. I am fucking blessed. Thanks be to Allah and Jah every day of my life. Alhamdulillah, God, He give me everything. But at the same time, like, you have to look at, you're eating shit, basically. You know what I mean? When there's other people have the system rigged, they're fucking drinking the blood of babies, having to crack for themselves. Listen, I love you, peace and love and all that shit. I'll talk to you soon, alright? Mwah.
And document a life that's right. And ways consist of simple things, the days of black and white. and faces from a humble past at one with the ground, the sound